Hello and welcome back to my small little library. It is nearly the end of the year. This video I think will go out as the first video of the next year, so I thought it would be quite fitting to do a reading goals update. What did I do with the reading goals I had for this year, 2024, and what reading goals do I have for the next year, 2025? To just have a little chat about that, chat about reading goals in general, why I set reading goals, because I know a lot of people are like, why even set goals for a hobby? So yeah, I thought we'd have a little chat about that. Let's start with the first point. Why do I even set reading goals? What is the reasoning behind that? And for me, I am absolutely a goals-driven person. For example, I'm an avid gamer and I love getting achievements. I am more of like a completionist when it comes to gaming, and a game is only done playing once I have gotten 100% of the achievements. I don't do them all at once, but I come back to games to just play the games, do the achievements, and once I have them all, I am happy that the game is finished. And so that kind of is everywhere in my life. I need goals that I set for myself, otherwise I have a lot of trouble getting things done. And so that also comes with reading, obviously. To kind of give my reading a little bit of structure, I do set some goals. I think this will change in the future, like the type of goals I set will change in the future once my TBR is down to an amount of books that I really enjoy having. So the reading goals might change in that point. But let's be honest, we are a few years away from reaching that goal. So I set myself goals to just like keep my reading interesting, to freshen it up every now and then, and to just hold myself accountable that I actually get around to do all of my hobbies. So I have goals for, my knitting, my crocheting, my reading, my gaming. I have little goals that I just want to get to throughout the year for everything, and that makes my life richer, to be honest. Like, it makes my life more interesting and I enjoy it a lot. So that is why I set those goals for myself. That being said, let's talk about the goals I set for last year. The first goal was the biggest one, and that was to get my TBR to under 200 books. At the beginning of this year, like the last year, 2024, I had a physical TBR. So only the physical books that I own, and not the German books, because I'm not focused on reading any German books right now. The amount of books was roughly 270. And my biggest goal was to really get under 200, which was a big goal, and I just barely managed to do it. I, as of today, have 197 books left on my physical TBR. Most of them are here behind me. And I managed it, just barely, but I did do it, which makes me really happy. I feel much better having less physically unread books on my shelves, because I do enjoy collecting books, but I do want to have a collection that I have read and that I enjoy reading, looking at, that are books that I really think are great books. That is a goal I want to get at some point in my life, and so getting the TBR down is a really big step towards that. The second goal I had was to not force myself to finish books, because that is a habit I have. I feel really bad buying books and then DNFing them, because obviously I bought them and I thought I would want to read them, and it's something I'm still working on, but I did DNF quite a few books more than I did over the last few years. But I still didn't DNF that much. I think over the whole year I maybe DNF'd 10 books. So, and most of them were in these last few months, because I really like set myself down and was like, you really need to stop reading books you don't enjoy reading, because obviously it makes my reading a lot slower, because I'm dragging my feet through those books and it's just really not a sensible thing to do. So yes, I have gotten better with that. Have I gotten good at it? Did I achieve my goal? I don't think so. I think I could have DNF'd a few more books that I forced myself to read through. yeah, it's not the most sensible thing. But I think that is something I will really, really work on this coming year, because I think I have quite a few books on this physical TBR that I just am not interested in, that I will not be enjoying, and will work on DNFing those instead of forcing myself to read them. And then the third goal that I wrote actually down was to find balance. And did I find balance this year with all of my hobbies and everything? No. Who would have thought? I think finding balance is something that I will have to work hard on over this next year, because I have a lot of hobbies, a lot of time intensive hobbies. I would love to pick sewing back up again, which I haven't done in like at least a year and a half, even though I really enjoy sewing my own clothes. Sewing costumes, cosplays. I would really like to get back into that as well. So I will need to find some kind of balance, which is, it's hard. It's hard. I want to do everything all at once. I wish my days would be longer, but sadly they are not, and I also need to work. So, you know, there are only so many hours left, and I have a really hard time balancing that, and that hasn't changed this year. I did read a few less books than I did last year, which I think is a good step towards balance, because last year I think I read 141 books, and this year I'm at like 135, 36, somewhere there. So not a big difference, but you know, that it means like maybe one book a month less that I invested into a different hobby, which, you know, is a step in the right direction. But I am still realizing that I have a lot of problems balancing all of my hobbies, because they are also time intensive, which, you know, isn't a good idea, but I love them all, so I don't want to put one hobby aside. I don't think that's a sensible thing to do. I just think I need to manage my time a little bit better. So yeah, those were the goals I actually wrote down. Then I had the unofficial goal of getting through the books that I have received in book boxes that I paid for. I stopped getting all that one book box that just comes once a quarter, which is a book box I love. It's a horror book box, and I enjoyed most of those books so far. So with that box, I'm really happy. But before that, I got the Fairy Loot and the Illumicrate. Never like in the same month. I switched between the two. I first got the Fairy Loot because I couldn't get the Illumicrate because the waitlist was so long, and then once I got the Illumicrate, I stopped getting the Fairy Loot. But as you can see, that complete shelf are just books that I received in those boxes, and the shelf above that as well. And then here we have some more. So I have read so few of the books because I just did not really realize that they were fantasy boxes, but in my opinion, it's much more romantasy. Even though most of them don't really like put it on the cover, you know, but a lot of them focus so much on relationships that for me, it's just not enjoyable to read. I don't love that. I want either just a romance that is like what the book is described as, or I want a fantasy. I hate these fantasies that start as normal fantasies and then at like the 1/3 marker, they get infatuated with somebody, the main character, and from then on it's just drama with a relationship. I hate that. I really, really do. If you like it, good for you. I just personally do not enjoy books like that, and a lot of those I have the inkling that they will be books like that. And so I stopped getting the book box because it obviously didn't make sense to continue getting it if the books weren't what I enjoy reading. But I still have so many of them unread, and I did not make a dent in them at all. I tried reading them, and I put them away, and again and again and again, and at some point I just stopped picking them up. But I'm also not at the point where I want to mass DNF them, because I think that's dumb. I paid so much money for them. They are such pretty books, like they really look fantastic. They're all signed editions. But to be honest, it's just, I have such a hard time picking them up, so they will probably be left on my physical TBR. I will still try to do a dent in them, but let's be honest, it's just, I know that I probably won't enjoy them, and going into the books with already this like negative idea about them is really not helping. So I might need to do like one every 2 months, and then it will stretch itself over a few years. So yeah, tip from me, don't get book boxes longer than necessary just because you love the merchandise in them, because they are supposed to be for the book, not for the merchandise. And I got them way longer than I should have just because I loved the merch so much that was in them, the cups and the pins and all of that. Like, there were so many nice things in the boxes, but I just did not love the box, which sadly, you know, is a fact of life. So yeah. So those were all of the reading goals I had. I managed to do 2 out of 4, which, you know, 50-50. Could have been worse, could have been better. So let's talk about the reading goals for the coming year. Obviously, the first reading goal is gonna be get my physical TBR down. This time around, I'm setting the goal at 150, so I want to get under 150. I'm doing it a little bit smaller just because I do want to get a few more books this year. I really bought very few books this past year, but the coming year I do want to allow myself to get a few more books that I'm really interested in, because a lot of these books I'm not that interested in anymore, and that can make my reading a little bit more unenjoyable, because there are books out there I would much rather read, but I'm not allowing myself to buy them in en masse because I do actually want to get through these books. So I'm allowing myself to buy a few more books and setting the physical TBR goal a little bit less. So 150, I think that's a reasonable goal. It sounds good and doable, and that is the most important thing, I think. Then the second goal is obviously to get a little bit of the book box books done. So hopefully I can at least get myself to read 1 a month. I think that is a reasonable goal. That would mean I would be 12 down by the end of the year, which I think is reasonable and not too unbearable for me. So we're gonna set that goal, and I hope you are all holding me for it. And at the end of the year, I'm gonna present you a video with the 12 books that I read in that series, and hopefully there will be something positive in there. We're gonna see. Then the third one is finding balance once again, because I need to. At some point I really need to, just to be fulfilled. I want to do all of the hobbies. The main goal is to get back into sewing. I want to learn how to hand sew. I have a sewing machine, but I would really love to know how to hand sew effectively and nicely, so I'm not bound to a table with my sewing machines, but I can sew anywhere I want. That would be really good. I do want to knit a little bit more. I did a lot of crochet this year, so for the next year I want to do a little bit more knitting. I'm currently knitting a sweater, and I do want to do 2 or 3 more this year, which it takes me a long time to knit something, so that is a reasonable thing to do. And then I want to read over 100 books again, but I want to try to not force myself to read 10 books a month. You know, I would be fine to just read 100 books next year and not force myself to read these masses. The other thing is I would really like to get more into audiobooks. I struggle with audiobooks. I have a few that I really loved, but a lot of them I'm just not into. What works fine for me are non-fiction books as audiobooks. That I can actually do really well, that I enjoy quite a lot. So I might need to search for some new non-fiction books that I can listen to, and then I am kind of interested in going back and listen to some of the books I enjoyed more as a teenager, and to go back and listen to them in the original language, because obviously as a teenager we do start learning English early in Germany, but I did read all of my books in German as a teenager. Now I do read them in the original language, which is mostly English or German, but everything that isn't a German author I typically read in English, because that are the only 2 languages I actually speak. I did learn French and Dutch, but I can't speak them. I can understand a little bit of Dutch, which I think a lot of people can, but yeah, my French is horrible, so I can't really do that. So yeah, English and German it is. But yeah, going back and listening to Aragon, for example, would be something I would really like to do. Then I have a few other different series. I need to look into my German bookshelves because I kept quite, not all, sadly, of my old books, but I did keep quite a few. So I can go back and look at the ones that I really enjoyed in German and then go back and listen to them in English, and which is where most of the books come from. So those are, I think, pretty much the reading goals. Just like over 100 books, the TBR under 150 getting there, then reading at least a book a month, and just finding a little bit more balance with all of my hobbies, especially when it comes to knitting and sewing. We'll see how many I will fail of those. I think I will at least get the 100 books for the year and the under 150 books on my physical TBR. I think those two will be doable. The other two, we'll see. Hopefully I can do them. So yeah, hopefully you will come on this journey with me, and we'll see how I will do at the end of the year. And I think I might try and give an update at the middle of the year. We'll see how far I've come with all of these goals. But yeah, hopefully I can achieve those, because that would be really, really nice, and I would be really happy with myself if I could do them. So yeah, if you have any reading goals, if you set any, please leave them down below. I always like to see what goals other people have, because it also can be really inspirational to see what other people aspire to do in a year, and give myself more ideas what would be maybe doable goals in the future. So leave those down below if you want to. And yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this quick little summary of my reading goals, and yeah, what I achieved and what I want to achieve in the next year. And yeah, hopefully I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.